Apple will soon be releasing a new Mac Mini in the next few weeks. And this adds to the move away from the all-in-ones like the 27-inch iMac to more modular computers like the MacStudio or even the new Mac Pro. And with this change, there's now a real call for external monitors that suit the macOS. You aren't just restricted to Apple's Studio display and the XDR Monitor. These are expensive, but they do suit the macOS perfectly. So what other displays suit the macOS, and in particular, the use of Final Cut Pro? And what we're going to see is what's involved in choosing a more reasonably priced non-Apple external monitor. This video will discuss what's involved in choosing that monitor, and the focus will be on what the Final Cut Pro editor should buy to suit a Mac Mini or Mac Studio, or even a Mac Pro when it's finally released. My name's Bruce, and if we've met before, welcome back. Otherwise, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell, as this is the first in a series of videos about external monitors to suit Final Cut Pro and the macOS. There are two major considerations that a Final Cut Pro editor needs to be aware of when buying an external monitor to suit the macOS. And there are other important issues that I'll discuss as well that will affect the purchase. And the two major issues are, number one is the color accuracy, and that should be factory calibrated. And the second is the Mac optimization, whether it's 109 pixels per inch or 218 pixels per inch. And you'll see a bit more about that later. And then the other issues, the screen real estate suitable for Final Cut Pro, whether to use one or more separate monitors, perhaps a wide monitor with a split screen, then a webcam, and then we'll discuss calibration and the calibration tool. So the first, color accuracy. When considering a monitor for video and photography, the main feature is to have a monitor that will produce results and colors that are consistent for all viewers. It's no point in adjusting your monitor so that it looks pleasing to you, the creator, to have the exported result looking unrealistic when viewed by your intended audience. And that means that the creator's monitor needs to be accurate to certain standards: sRGB, Rec 709, Display P3, or Adobe RGB. And this is the way to look at it. You've heard of WSIWYG. What you see is what you get. But in this case, it should be WISIWYG. What I see is what you get. So you need to be exporting results consistent for all viewers. I mentioned the standards before, sRGB and Rec 709. You'll find that some monitor specs will flaunt these. Others will not mention them. So my simple answer is, if it's not mentioned in the specs, the display doesn't meet the standards. And the standards you should be looking for in a monitor will depend on your intended audience that you're publishing for. In this series of tutorials, I'll concentrate on monitors that are close to 100% Rec 709. But to make it easy though, the standards overlap. So a well-calibrated monitor will likely be good for most results. It's all well and good that a monitor can show a standard of accuracy, but it's another thing that it's calibrated to produce that accuracy. And this means that a factory calibration is important to show the monitor is accurate out of the box. And to be sure of a continuing accuracy, a calibration tool should be considered. They've also got the added advantage of matching the color on your monitor, taking into account the brightness of your room. Once you have your color accuracy sorted, the next and perhaps the more important consideration as a Mac user is how will the monitor work with your Mac. Mostly the macOS will work with any non-Apple monitor that you attach, but very few monitors work natively with the macOS. Monitor companies talk about resolution, that's high definition 4K and 5K, and in some cases 6K. But for the macOS, it's all about PPI, that's pixels per inch. And you'll be hard pressed to find a monitor optimized for the Mac native 109 and 218 pixels per inch. And by the way, 218 is what you'd find on a Retina display. But before I get into detail, as I said, the macOS will work with any monitor, but for most monitors, it'll need to scale the resolution to suit, and that's a processor overhead. In other words, the computer will devote some power to the scaling of the resolution that could be used elsewhere on your editing processes. The OS gives you the ability to select the scaling of the text to suit the level comfortable for your eye. And this is done in the display settings of the preferences under the Apple menu. But that's not all. You need to be aware that even though the macOS scales the display, there's an issue with the sharpness of text that can show a little blurry even on a 4K rated monitor. To avoid both the processor overhead and those sharpness issues, you need to look at the PPI of monitors that are close to that magic 109 or 218 figure, and to balance that with the price and features that monitors offer. Be aware that the 109 PPI range will be more pixelated than the 218 PPI, because 109 is an HD standard and not 4K. When you're looking at specs, you'll see that not all manufacturers show the PPI in their specs. So you can use this calculator to find out the PPI of this display that you're looking at. The link's in the description below. Of course, as I said, the Apple monitors, the 27-inch Studio display and the 32-inch XDR display fit the macOS requirements perfectly, but they're expensive. In Australian dollars, $2,500 for the Studio display, then the height adjustment is extra, and a whopping $8,500 for the XDR, and the stand is around another $1,000. So have a look at this chart that shows how some non-Apple monitors fit well and how most are in the red zone that will require more scaling by the macOS. Screen real estate for Final Cut Pro. The size and aspect ratio of the monitor will affect how you view the Final Cut Pro interface. You may think the bigger the screen the better, but think about these considerations. A wide monitor will have a 21:9 ratio, so you'll find that the Final Cut Pro viewer window will still be much the same size as it would be on a 27-inch monitor. You'll just have a longer timeline. And also consider that the bigger the monitor, the more distance you'll have to move the cursor across the screen. And the bigger the monitor, the bigger the pixels, so they'll be more visible. The smaller the monitor, the less they'll be noticeable. So best look at screens before you buy. In my opinion, a 32-inch is optimum if you ignore the processor overhead. Then go for 4K. 34-inch is just too big. And a 27-inch is best for the 109 PPI models. Anything smaller will make Final Cut Pro hard to view. In the next few weeks, I'll be reviewing various monitors to check how they look with Final Cut Pro and the different sharpness of the non-Apple monitors compared to the Mac's optimal 5K 218 PPI monitors. One or more separate monitors. If you're thinking of two or more monitors, then the 27-inch 109 PPI models make sense. But don't be tempted into a 34-inch or a bigger 109 model thinking you can split the screen. The pixels will likely be really noticeable. I do intend to review a 34-inch 109 PPI model, and that'll be interesting to see in a coming tutorial. One wide split screen. I will be reviewing a 34-inch 5K monitor that can be split into two screens, so that may be an alternative. But it's a curved monitor, and that may have ramifications of its own for video editing. It'll be interesting to see how a straight line or even the timeline will show up on a curved monitor. Webcams. A webcam is a necessity in today's world. Very few non-Apple monitors come with a built-in webcam, so that should be a balance in the price when you're looking at monitors. Consider at least a 1080p webcam. But if you are looking at 4K, I don't think you can go past the Logitech Brio. But before you jump into 4K, consider that video conferencing only uses HD. So if that's your only need for a webcam, then the 1080p model will be adequate. And when looking for a webcam, consider the thickness of your monitor's bezel. Otherwise, the webcam can block some of the display on your screen. And also, don't forget your iPhone. It can work as a webcam. And consider Cameo Studio or FineCam as the software to drive the iPhone as a webcam. I'll compare webcams attached to non-Apple monitors compared to the built-in Apple webcam. And finally, calibration, whether it's factory calibrated or whether you purchase a calibrator. If your monitor does not come with a factory calibration, and also to be sure of a continuing accuracy, a calibration tool should be considered. And they've got the added advantage of matching the colour of your monitor when taking into account the brightness of your room. Keep watching this series of tutorials and be notified by subscribing, and be sure to press the bell. Thanks for watching.